Morning, everybody. Afternoon, everybody. Let's see here. All right. I'm just waiting for Chris to jump on in. He is over on Twitch right now. I should actually, that reminds me, should put this in here. Live on Twitch. Live on Twitch. Work the game. And there he is. There he is. There's the man. There's the myth. How are you, sir?
A little under the weather.
A little under the weather? Okay.
Yep.
Oh, I'm having like a massive anxiety attack right now. It's like 10 minutes before the thing. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna go get some Tums, drink some water, just breathe.
Tums for anxiety?
Usually ends up being like triggered off by like I need to go see like a gastroenterologist again, and I have, but it's like and burping ends up relieving the a lot of it. So it's like this kind of, I don't know. That's how it usually has been. So I don't know why.
Okay.
The life, just like, good Lord. It's like all like in the hands, I don't know how you guys experience it, but mine's weird. Usually like when I've had like these in the past, like I'll just kind of like scroll Twitter for some period of time and just try to distract my brain. So hopefully that's what this is. We're just going to distract Brian. You look taller than me today.
Oh, sorry.
Good. I don't care. I was just like, I was like, hi guys. Hello. Down here at the bottom. All right. I'll let you share screen for the notes, because you said there are some 6.3 surprises and what have you. And
yes.
And then also probably job adjustments would be something that
not up yet. Patch, it's not a 24-hour maintenance.
Oh, that's awesome. That's man, when they do the 24
hours. Yeah, it's just a 5 hour.
So no job adjustments. I'll change the title of the stream.
We're in preliminaries
and prelims,
but still substantial.
And safe. All right, there we go. That way we go. Hey, what's up, Salty? Says hello from Japan.
Why is it blinking?
Chris's scrolling anxiety is more likely to give you to anxiety.
That better? It was like blinking. Was it flashing for you guys?
A little bit, maybe.
All right. Well, if it's happy, I'm happy.
Sweet action, Jackson. All right, dude. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to a Brian has an anxiety attack while Chris talks about what is surprising in the Patchpoint 6.3 notes. I'm actually already feeling like way better, which is great, because I was like, all right, let me just go get some water, get some air, and we're gonna have some fun. So obviously, right, patch 6.3 goes live tomorrow. I thought it was a 24-hour maintenance. I thought we were going to be talking some job adjustments, but you're saying and letting me know that that's not the case. So what's surprising?
The big one's Paladin. So like the fact that Paladins still don't know what they're doing, but like Ultimate's not for 2 weeks. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
Plenty of time to adjust to Paladin overall.
All right. So this is God's Revel, Lands Tremble. And this is the preliminary patch notes, because the final patch notes don't go live until tonight. But we're not expecting a drastic shift there.
Mm-hmm.
And as a reminder, we will be able to dive in Upper Lenosha. So this is a big deal. Go down and take some screenshots in a big place, even if you don't like the underwater fishing game. But the underwater fishing game's wonderful now. But what I thought was really big, besides the fact that we're like getting more stuff, MSQ Alliance Raid. I will be doing the Alliance Raid first thing in the morning. I was invited with I guess Darian Hart organized the whole thing.
Nice.
And so I will be tanking Alliance C in a big like collab thing. So I tweeted that out. So if you guys want to watch that, the only thing that I like in 14 better than just generalized new content, like my specific favorite thing, is day one Alliance raids.
Okay.
And going in there with a pre-structured group sounds delightful. I hope they know that like I laugh when anybody dies. Like, doesn't matter if I die, doesn't matter if they die. Like, people getting yeeted day one is amazing. Now, Newfound Adventure. Does this patch add trust to the rest of Heavensward? It does, to the rest of Heavensward MSQ. So the patch MSQ dungeons. So it's those like 6 dungeons or whatever. All right. So deep dungeons now get an icon on the map. Field operations like Bosjo still get an icon on the map. Variant dungeons get an icon on the map, so it just gets a little bit easier to find these things. So you don't have to know where everything is.
Nice.
And then when the location or destination of a quest is not in a city or the open field, the quest icon will now display on the map, indicating the path to reach it, so that you know how to get there. Certain side quests, deep dungeon, some fixing. There's some big stuff in here. I know it.
Yeah, take your time.
Oh, new maps.
In the edit, we can always cut to it.
Okay. Company crests are getting new symbols. So for PvP teams. So nice. Kind of cool to continue. They've really invested in cosmetics. As a reminder, this is also the patch where now your adventure plate goes into dungeons with you, and like alliance raids and stuff. Alliance raids only show 8, so it just shows your full party. You don't see the other parties. And then we're adding 5 more wards to housing 6 more wards to housing districts: 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Apartments have also been added to all wards. So this will be a big deal for everybody that wants a house. This is also the patch when they turn back on housing demolition. So there's also going to be a whole bunch of houses about 45 days from now entering the circulation for everybody that's been on break and their house has not been there. You didn't see anything about new tombstones. GamerDad, that should be the 0.4, right? We get new tombstones with the raids. So even numbered patches. So we kind of just hang tight. New furnishings, and then I'm looking for the UI stuff. That's where I got excited.
Oh yeah, with the damage type that they've shown off. So they're showing off some more things than that, or more Island Sanctuary updates.
Yeah, lots of stuff in the island. The Island Sanctuary, a lot of this stuff people have been using like third party. They've been having like spreadsheets up and all that, and a lot of that's getting. It seems like they're starting to clean up that in game so that it's a little easier to tell what's happening. Hairstyle for Roth. All right. Okay, duty support for Heavensward. This is just going to be adding the MSQ dungeons from 51, 53, 55, 57, and 60. The 260s.
Yeah, Balthor's Wall is the last Heavensward dungeon itself. So go scroll back up because it's like for the dungeons themselves. Sorkai, the anti-tower is the leveling. Great Google Library leveling. Sorkai, I guess leveling.
Oh, these are all 59s and 60s.
Yeah.
Oh, so 59.
Yeah, they did part 1. Yeah, they did that.
Okay,
they did part 1, and then they, as I say, because it's like, yeah, and then.
Oh, so this is the patch content. So this is.
Yeah. The other dungeons
3.0.
that they added were all like the hard mode dungeons.
Okay,
so,
cool.
Yeah.
And so all that's left is Stormblood now. So we should get base Stormblood in 6.4, and then the rest of Stormblood in 6.5, and then we're done.
Yeah, because then you take over with Shadowbringers, and then the question I wonder if they'll ever go back and update those others. They didn't commit to it, but I just wonder if like when all said is done, if we end up seeing more changes down that road. But I guess let's let them finish Stormblood first.
Combat.
Why is WoW blinking at me? Oh, I'm being attacked.
All right. Some Wanderer's Tale stuff. So these have been adjusted. I'm pretty sure that these have been available for Moogle Tombstones in the past. But maybe I'm wrong. So I think those have been there. A new emote added, so now we can take our link shell calls. You'll now be able to change posture You'll have changed pose. So now you can have poses when you have your umbrella. And it also sounded like they were going to implement that you can have the umbrella automatically be like come out when it's raining. Okay, UI. First, damage types. This is a massive, massive update. This is something that will change the way people talk about the game and like the amount of information that's available to people that do not use third-party tools. This is something that like actually makes people better players. Like it's so hard to become a better player if you don't have the information.
Mhm.
And so teaching people about the different damage types, this is a huge step in the right direction. You will also now be able to see the time remaining for buffs and enfeebling effects on your party list. So you can see exactly what everybody else is doing. This is by default on, but if you, I think this option can be enabled or disabled. It sounded like they were going to set the default to on, but if it's not, if they decide day and date that it's not, consider turning this on, because this is going to help you better understand how other people are taking actions. This healer, for example, would know that Rampart's going to fall off in 6 seconds. That's helpful. Knowing how long on people's vuln stacks, that's helpful. So this is good. There is a new trial. There's more. There's stuff that was not announced in the live letter. Weekly restriction, number of abyssos, new alliance rate. God, I love alliance rates. Okay, so the following adjustments have been made to deep dungeons. A next button has been added to the new appraisal window.
Nice.
Because as we go into another deep dungeon,
Yeah,
so you can just quickly appraise all of them. The deep dungeon guide interface has been adjusted. Players can now view the deep dungeon guide via the character info window, even after entering the duty. Sustaining potion effect has been increased from 15 to 30 seconds, making Palace of the Dead substantially easier. And the Imperium potion from 15 to 30 seconds, making a Heaven on High. So that makes your Necromancer and Lone Hero titles a little more achievable.
okay.
So that's a massive change that was not announced in the live letters. And then players will now receive the power of the Echo in the event. All parties are incapacitated in the following. So those have been added. Do that. I'm going to find it. Oh, here's our adjustments to the instance dungeons. So if you haven't run these yet, Great Goo Ball, Aetherochemical, Anti-Tower, Sorkai, Zelfdal, and Baelsar, they've all been adjusted.
So yeah, if you want to experience some you got how many hours? A couple hours now?
Yeah, stretch.
If you're watching this as a VOD, then probably not.
Probably missed it.
Yeah. Sorry.
So the fact that they're going back and cleaning all that stuff up is awesome. The display of target indicators for certain battle mechanics has been adjusted. So like the fact that they're putting so much effort into old duties has been a great trend.
Yeah.
Where is the thing about the markers?
You can always just Control F, I guess, because because I haven't seen anything about markers come up yet.
Okay.
Because you're just in PvP.
Indicators. What do they call them?
Notification icons indicating.
Oh, it's further down. All right, we'll keep going then.
Okay,
stay the course. Okay,
stay the course.
PvP. Limit gauge charge time will now be included in the limit break help text. Actions that increase movement speed will now include the rate of their increase in the help text. Players will no longer be able to register for multiple duties simultaneously when registering for PvP. And then Series 2 will end. Season 3 will begin. I did not get them out. I ended up getting sick this weekend. I was going to do it this weekend. I'll just live without. It's okay. I've missed a lot of temporary mounts in the game. New arena. The Clockwork Castle Town has been added, which has the tricky floors on it that like mess with you.
Yeah, I'm glad they're adding more maps. Was one of the things that when it came down to Feast, it felt like the map rollout was pretty slow, but this feels pretty consistent.
The order of items on these prelims is stage. Okay. And I'm glad it's not just me. I was like, I feel like I'm getting jerked around here. All right. With the addition, the following adjustments have been made to the rotation. Don't they just insert it? Isn't it just the same thing just now? Oh, no. Palestra, volcanic, clockwork. Palestra, cloud 9, clockwork. Oh.
Cycle repeats. Okay.
No, but they're not all. So cloud 9 and volcanic are not as common.
Correct.
Okay.
So because it's the new map, the clockwork, and Palestra are now the two most common, and then volcanic and cloud 9 are going to be the ones that basically are the ones that are rotating. If you kind of think about it, you know, so it's like you're either on the volcanic, and it's every 90 minutes. So yeah, so you're either in those two, or you know, even odds on volcanic and cloud.
So you got to wait 4.5 hours until. All right.
Yeah, if you're like, I really love cloud, it's like, yeah, you know, it's gonna be a long night.
All right. Custom matches. You can now just accept a rematch.
Nice.
Solid. All right. New items. Set looks great. New recipes. A bunch of stuff now going genderless. And
I honestly hope that they're designing just genderless, you know, at this point, because
yeah. Hopefully they're not adding new stuff that's still gender tied. Like, I mean, if it was already built, it was already built, right? So there could be stuff that's implemented, and you're like, well, yeah, but we drew this up 7 months ago or whatever. But hopefully we were at a point where everything is now added with that all in mind. Yeah. And ideally, that's helms for Vieira and Roth. Stop putting new stuff in game. It doesn't make me mad that stuff from ARR doesn't equip on them. It frustrates me that they come out with some brand new iconic set tied to Endwalker, and it doesn't release for races that were released before Endwalker.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you didn't know they were going to be there. This change applies to craft sets. Okay. The Chocobo suits are now dyeable. So I can't remember the last time that they've gone back and made like big stuff like this dyeable that wasn't.
Yeah.
So that's a big change. And that comes alongside probably the single largest glamour change that I can remember. Mm-hmm. Increasing the size of the glamour dresser has been the typical, but this is now going to have you be able to like sort items by item level per category. There's now an item search function. Thank God. You'll also be able to equip glamour from your, like, so this is within the glamour dresser. You'll be able to equip glamour from your retainer inventories and then change your retainer's glamour without it being in there. So like the whole thing is just getting cleaner. Mm-hmm. So this is a massive change. Certain items can be, all right. Oh, crafted augments back, obviously.
Yeah.
And then new custom deliveries. I'm going to find it. I really thought that this would be like, they should just put the stuff that wasn't in the live letter at the very top. Because all of this, because I'm having to scroll through everything I've already seen.
Yeah.
Your collectability value will now be for reference when gathering. So you actually know what your tiers are. So you know whether or not it's actually worth doing. Because like it's so frustrating to know, like, am I at the mark I want? And so like that way when you're going to turn in, what ends up happening is I have 10 of them in my inventory, and I go to turn them in, and they're like, okay, I'll take that 7. You're like, well, what about the other 3? And they're like, oh yeah, I don't want those.
Yeah.
Crap. Following additions to adjustments to the fishing guide. Whoa, look at this. Now, instead of just these little 5x5 triple triad pages, you get 100 per page.
Woo. As they've added in way more fish, for sure.
And then entries will now display prime locations. And then will now display their preferred bait if you've caught them before. And entries for fish that have been caught via spearfishing will now display their silhouette size. Weather restrictions will now be displayed under additional information. And a search feature has been added. Thank God. Filters have been added. Look at that.
So helpful.
Total successful fishing endeavors and fish caught will now be displayed as records. And the records for spearfishing can now be sorted by region. That is so many improvements all at once. Like, fishing is one of the biggest areas in the game that I recommend third-party tools. Like, step one for getting into fishing is open your browser. Like, it has nothing to do with being in game. And that's a massive improvement. All these different prime locations, the preferred bait, all the additional information. It's a really clean UI. It's like an actual guide. Oh. New mounts, new minions, new fashion accessories. Okay. When using data center travel, you're still in another data center after 30 days. You'll automatically be returned. That's fine.
Yeah, it makes sense. If I took a break, and then you come back, and you're like, what's going on? Yeah.
The following additions and adjustments have been made to retainers. You'll be able to cast, glamour, and dye items added to a retainer menu. And then you can try on stuff. Entrust duplicates. This entrust duplicates is amazing, because what'll happen is you'll just drop things in there, and it'll go, oh, you want these things? And you say, yeah. And if there is a stackable item in your inventory that they have, it'll just toss those in. So that makes it a lot easier for you to use retainers for specific things. So it functions much closer to how I use my New World inventory.
Yeah. Where you have it broken up by town, or like in this case by retainer. Like, hey,
so I
just drop that in.
So this is my wood town, and I just drop all my wood. It's like, oh, that's great. It's great. And then, in order to prevent server congestion, immediately after the release of 6.3, we'll be implementing multiple field instances for Garlemald. Why Garlemald? Because that's where the story takes place?
Yeah, must be taking you in there. Well, I mean, you've already seen Alizé and Alphino, so it's like, that's probably where that's going to be kind of where the zone ends up, going for MSQ. Yeah. Chat's agreeing. Saying MSQ as well. Woo-hoo.
Cool. And the division of Ultima Tool will be removed. And so we just continue moving that down the line. So everything is multiple instances at launch, effectively. Seems like what we're going to be doing moving forward. So like 7.0, so that means the total number of hunts available just stays the same, because you're just going to be doing all 3 instances of Garlemald now instead of all 3 tools. All right. I'm just like, as I'm getting to hunt trains, like, congestion has never affected me, but when you start to do hunt trains, that matters, because you'll use all those instances. Also, my first thought was the bunny tribe, so I wondered if we'd be getting multiple Mar Lamentorums. Okay. New stickers added. I've never used this feature. Like the G-Post stickers and all that.
Yeah. Somebody we were talking about like photo modes and things like that, and how like somebody was saying they were a waste. And I was like, they're not my content, but they are high in demand. Yeah, they don't hurt me at all. Like, it's like, but it's like, I want to, like, let's sit here and recognize that a lot of people like having those kind of tools, and it, more power to them. It's not like you're losing out on the dungeon because you have somebody who's working on like UI changes, right? Like different teams, different strokes,
Adventure Plate's got new accents, as well as you can now use these types of play style as well. I'm definitely an achievement player. The following adjustments have been made into portraits. We've got new accents, new poses, new default background. We can import settings from Adventure Plate. We can apply to Adventure Plate. And now they will appear in duties, which is what they said. They originally built it for PvP and then thought, wouldn't it be cool if this went everywhere else?
Yeah. Once you saw it in PvP, it was like, this would be excellent everywhere. It gives it's a great little personality. I do suspect that at some point they'll make those little bit of animated, where it's like pick an emote and you're kind of just doing your favorite emote or something like that, which would be kind of cool. But
so they're saying that they think Mar Lamentorum will be multiple instances on 6.3.5 when we go into Bunny Beast Tribe.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll now be dungeons, guild tests, trials, raids, alliance raids, deep dungeons, and variant. However, when you're in alliance raids, note that it'll only be 8 portraits because it's all they designed it to handle.
Yeah.
And then it's now possible to display party members' instant portraits in the player commendation window.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Excellent. This can
I'm gonna vote for my favorite portrait.
Cool. And then we got our new theme. Looks great.
Yeah.
All right. Here is this is massive.
Oh, wow. That is massive.
Massive.
5 to 30. That's so nice.
That's something that had been manageable through my understanding is
add-ons.
Wonderful. I still would rather it be like 5 per duty and then like 5 defaults. So you kind of have these defaults that you take with you when you go into like new duties, or if you just haven't set something up, where you can copy paste it, because that's something that scales like every time they add a duty. That way, if you're ever like in mentor roulette or something like that, because there's more than 30 duties in the game and you don't necessarily use the same way, you don't across an entire duty. So you might use different waymarks for different phases, but it is a massive jump from 5 to 30. And so I think this plus the damage taking, the damage types, these are the 2 biggest changes in this patch. Like a lot about 6.3 is exciting. The alliance raid is what I'm most excited to do. But as far as like long-term effects of the game, this is what I wanted to actually chat with you about.
Okay.
Was long-term impacts and investments in the game. Because one of the complaints of Final Fantasy XIV is that like the content cycle becomes this pattern and can feel stale, and they're not investing in like substantial changes to the way we play. And a lot of that, in my opinion, ties back to people that see a flaw in the system, and then that flaw just lingers and lingers and lingers. So they get really frustrated that there's 5 waymark slots, and then it's that way for years. So I didn't know what you thought of this. I
think the fact that
a big jump.
Well, this is them living up that promise of like, hey, we're going to look at what people are using the add-ons for, and then bringing those into the game, right? So like that's something that, hey, we can do this. Let's go ahead and do this. And it's, for me, it's encouraging, especially coming from Final Fantasy XI, where legitimately their stance has not changed in terms of add-ons. In Final Fantasy XI, it's always been no, but just don't talk about it. Okay, yeah, we get that. And then now you see people like Final Fantasy Horizon, 11, legitimately like, hey, we're gonna redo all the launcher. We're gonna do all these things, really make the game easier to get into. And that just kind of says, like, at least in 14's case, Yoshi P's like, we're aware of what's being put out there, and we're going to start working to implement it. Now, in terms of the greater impact, like there's 2 aspects of this, right? Like, speaking of game design, when we start talking about the game's not going to evolve into an action RPG. Like, that would be something that would be so stark. It just makes sense to say it's a better opportunity to make another game. Now, something that in terms of combat could bring it closer into that way with an expansion, but everybody who's been like, hey, I really want this game to be something completely different, like, most likely no. Like, they've got the core gameplay. Its strengths are, in a way, its predictability, but its weaknesses can be overcome. The question is that at what impact to the player? Because just because I have a critique of Final Fantasy XIV doesn't mean that the majority of the community does, right? Like, the majority of the community be like, this is exactly the game that we want, and we don't want to change it. The question ends up being, it's like, is this the change that would bring value to all the players or the majority of the players? And if so, like, how long would it take to implement? And that's how I feel that Yoshi P prioritizes, those priorities. And ultimately, looking at what he said historically, I think for the things that would be sweeping changes, like mind-bending, game-changing, system flow, which was a suggestion that somebody wanted us to kind of talk about. So we'll probably have that on the schedule here in a week or two, like design your perfect or your new MMO with all the new emerging technologies. Like, at some point, it would probably make sense for him to say, hey, here's our new MMORPG, even though that would be a lot of work on his end. I think there's still a lot of things they can do within 14. I don't think the PS4 is holding it back for any of that. The question ends up being is that what is going to be the biggest change? And honestly, based off of their design and their quick turnaround, like it just feels like it would be a real big undertaking for them to sit here and say like, okay, we're going to change how the entire gearing system works, because then you also have to retrain everybody on, you have to retrain your entire community who's on that. And it could be a net loss, right? It could be like, well, we hear you want A, B, and C and D, like we've tried that internally and it just ended up kind of like causing way more, pain points. What do you think?
I mean, you also break all the legacy content. And one of the things that's turned out to be really good in hindsight is the fact that Final Fantasy keeps all of its old content relevant.
Yeah.
And so when you start creating core system changes to gearing and combat that are even more drastic than what 14 has already done in the past, like, for example, World of Warcraft does, it gets really hard to keep old raids really relevant without an enormous amount of work. And to train players on all those old systems constantly. It's hard. It is. They already have to make adjustments to things like Unreals. So like there's already, for the fact that the game gets accused of not changing enough sometimes, there's already problems when they try to bring something forward as an Unreal.
Yeah.
And just imagine if they had gearing systems and combat systems that changed at fundamental levels every expansion and weren't just iterative on each other. So I don't know that big changes like that are going to happen. I think mostly what you're looking at is like, player feedback. Like these ones here, starting to make it easier to edit your HUD, starting to remove that automatic camera pivot, just these little things that bother people, just removing the resistance to the people who do like Final Fantasy, want to play Final Fantasy, and something like their UI is making it not as fun. That's the much more attainable goal than somebody who's saying, it'd be cool is if they just from the ground up rebuilt combat. That's better done with like another MMO. I mean, they could have a third MMO. There's nothing stopping them. So super cool. They're coming in and they're starting to change our control schemes, starting to change our HUD stuff. There's all sorts of extra displays. And like, as somebody that, I know you play a lot with like controller, the ability to start changing the way people get targeted and stuff is like a big deal.
Oh yeah. As a controller player, like Final Fantasy 14 still represents like the Mercedes of all options. And then they've continued to just look at various little tweaks that just open up the game's accessibility and makes it so much more enjoyable. And I'm, like Yoshi P's like, yeah, we haven't trademarked or patented this. And hopefully we'll see more MMOs continue to adopt that. And we're already seeing that kind of inroad in with WoW, with like Target and Iris. Like, yeah, like here we go, guys. Let's keep improving. Here is the city on the hill to mirror for controller support and MMOs. And hopefully we'll see that continue on and go forward. I think there's a lot that I think as you look forward to the question ends up being like, what's the ultimate priority? And so like if the story is the ultimate priority for the game itself and allowing people to be able to get in and experience that story, I think then changing the gearing system in and of itself causes roadblocks, right? Like there's every little feature, like there's positives and minuses, and it's easy to kind of forget about the minuses, especially if it's like, this is the feature that I want. And so it's like, okay, yeah, if we redid the gearing system, which like I would prefer, I would love to see something where you have perks and traits and things like that. So you could literally say crafters can craft the same, stat weight and gear score, but the perks that you really want are, locked behind the hardest content. But then it adds in build diversity and variety for players. But that cost is like, okay, well, then you have a worry about new players who are returning to the game after a 6-month or a 12-month or an 18-month or longer break, and then not being able to continue the story because maybe they don't end up having what's necessary in terms of that. So you end up running, there's a lot of like, almost in a way, a cost benefit analysis to the core game. And Final Fantasy's leaned in and continues to, and we'll see if that continues with 7.0 in terms of its narrative structure, which will be interesting. And, like one of the things that we've commented on multiple times, like, will they ever have a new story starting point for the game? Because if they do have a new story starting point, like, do they add in like that previously on, or do they cover it with a Netflix show that they've said they've been working on? And, there's there's no wrong choices. It's just like see what they end up doing, and then you can be like, okay, that worked out really well, or maybe we need an adjustment here or there. But yeah.
Well, that's what I was excited about. I think that the amount of UI and quality of life upgrades here were pretty massive. And so like even when we get into 6.4, 6.5, 7.1, I think the things that 6.3 is going to leave behind as its lasting impact are heavily felt in like the number of UI changes that we saw. And the half patch always feel like the midway, the 0.3s always feel like about that time of year that the UI team can really come in and do a lot of responses to feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So much of the expansion is hush hush that the downside of that is that they don't get a lot of feedback. So they come up with something that sounds really great internally and works for everybody internally. And then it comes out and we're all like, hey, we have about 1,000 other ideas. And some of them kind of rise to the top as the ones that most of us are like, yeah, that would be pretty great. And the 0.3 patch feels like when we got a lot of those. And so this seems great.
Yeah.
It's the number of little, like just easy to tell, like if I'm trying to get better at the game, here's what the other people in my party are doing. Here's what I'm doing. And like little things, like I want to glamour something. And the reason I don't get into glamour is A, it's hard to maintain my collection. And B, it's a pain in the butt to do. Like it's a whole extra step. And I don't get enough joy out of it to overcome that step. There are people that do, and that's awesome. And I'm glad it's a big part of the game for them. But for me, it's a whole thing. Augmenting gear, all these little things where it's like, I got to go through 10 different drop downs and make decisions. As they start to come in and remove those barriers, it gets a lot easier. It's like, well, like as I don't really care about appearances. And yet in World of Warcraft, I find myself excited when I get one I didn't have. And I actually occasionally update my appearance because it's super easy. I go into this menu and it's barely an inconvenience. I just throw it on there.
There it is. Wow.
And so as 14 improves a lot of that, I think it'll really allow the stronger parts of what they do to shine. I mean, their cosmetic system is widely diverse. So like if they could do all the things as far as ease of use that some of these other games do, the actual variety that's inside their crafted system is incredible.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and then Earth Demon over on Twitch says this is really the quality of life patch. I think quality of life, but also content, right? Like you already made note to the deep. I think that's going to be really significant. My question to you on that, like that I kind of filed away to ask you here and now, literally is, do you feel like that cheapens previous efforts, especially for the title, if it becomes more accessible for people?
No. It's not going to stop somebody from going, it's great that you did that, but it was harder back when I did it. Somebody will.
Back in my day.
No, because I assume what it's doing is they're balancing around the new one, and they're going to move everything to being 30-second. So, the battle changes already change it. There's already probably times that a class is at its strongest or weakest within that content. So it's already a moving target. And I think designing for the future of a game around past stuff is, I don't know. I don't know that it's really a healthy thing.
Yeah.
Deep Dungeon is more isolated than most types of content, so they can protect it, just like Ultimate, something that kind of forces you into its world. But people are having fun. I think that's great.
Yeah.
You're preserving it's not like they're saying, and now you only have to clear 50 of the floors to get the title. No. You still got to do it. You still got to do it solo. You still got to put in the work. So just like when WoW started talking about bringing back Mage Tower, I don't think there was this whole talk of like, well, now with all the classes, isn't it going to be easier to do this change? This class will be easier or whatever. I think that's fine. Like as long as people are still achieving it. Same with Ultimate, right? If people are still getting Ultimate clears, they deserve their glam. I don't really care if the classes were stronger at one particular point in the past over another.
Yeah, so apparently then tonight we'll learn more about the job adjustments themselves.
Yeah.
See how that kind of plays itself out. We've got a show scheduled for tomorrow talking about solo versus multiplayer. Maybe we'll table some time to talk about the different job adjustments because I'm very curious personally about Paladin because I put out the Bard controller guide and I was thinking about putting out like a couple of the other, like the Dragoon one this weekend. Then I was like, well, there's 2 days till the patch. Like just make sure that it's not like wildly or radically different to the point where it's like, okay. So that's going to hopefully be wrapping itself up as well. Paladin's a big one. I do apologize. I think I'm going to go ahead and wrap up the show early because I too feel better talking with you, but like this anxiety is just like, ugh. think I'm going to go take a shower. I think that might kind of help alleviate
Okay.
some of it. Sorry, chat. Sorry, everybody. I was like, yeah, about like 15 minutes towards to hit and go live and jumping in the show. I was like, all right, this is something I get to deal with today. So I don't know if anybody out there suffers from anxiety from time to time. Thankfully, it's a little bit rare, but it does happen. So, all right, chat. That was kind of Chris's thoughts on the patch notes. Thanks so much for kind of breaking down a lot of cool information. I'm definitely not bringing the energy because I'm literally just spinning, like rubbing my hands and my my arms just because it makes me feel a little bit more relaxed. But yeah, so thanks, man. I appreciate your time. I apologize that I didn't bring any energy to the show because I'm like, all right, this is going to distract me a little bit. So, and then thanks, guys, for being here on the YouTube side. Thanks for the 13 likes. It does help these videos out. We'll be back tomorrow, and I should hopefully be feeling much better. And hopefully Chris will be feeling better, too, because he said that he was sick this weekend.
We're starting at like 2 a.m, too. So we'll be live very early.
Oh, you're going to knock that story out first.
We're going to do Alliance Raid. I'm with a big group, pre-organized.
Yeah. All right, cool. Guys, if you want to go check out and support that over on Twitch, links already pinned and commented and all that good stuff. So we wish you guys a happy 6.3 patch day. Hopefully you guys get some really good stuff out of that. And we will see you guys tomorrow. I'm going to hit end broadcast and wave it out.